Students, have you ever wondered why we feel cool and pleasant while sitting under the trees in summer? What causes this cooling effect? Actually, this happens because plants mainly lose water through tiny pores called stomata present on their leaves by a process called evaporation. And we all know that evaporation causes cooling. Due to evaporation, growing and photosynthesizing plants face the largest water problem because the plants lose major part of water through a special process called transpiration. Every day, a large tree loses about 1,000 liters of water from its body by way of transpiration. This loss of excess water is essential for the survival of trees. If the water was to accumulate in the plant tissues, hydrostatic pressure would build up in the cells and eventually cause it to rupture. The metabolic activity of the plant would be affected and the plant would soon perish. So, transpiration is very important for plants, and in today's topic, we will discuss what is transpiration and why is it important for plants.
Hello students, ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਸਾਡਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਹੈ transpiration in plants. Transpiration is the major mechanism that drives the movement of water through a plant. Transpiration refers to the evaporation of water from biological surfaces such as leaves, barks, etc. of plants and skin of animals. In common usage, however, transpiration refers to the loss of water from plant foliage occurring through microscopic pores known as stomata. Transpiration is a component of a larger process known as evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration is a term used to describe the sum of evaporation and transpiration from the Earth's land surface to atmosphere. In simple words, we can say that evapotranspiration is equal to evaporation plus transpiration. Transpiration ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਪੌਦਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਮਹੱਤਵ ਸਮਝਣ ਲਈ ਫੋਟੋਸਿੰਥੇਸਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਪੌਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਭੋਜਨ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆ ਹੈ। ਫੋਟੋਸਿੰਥੇਸਿਸ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਭੋਜਨ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਪੌਦਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਨ ਗ੍ਰੀਨ ਕਲਰ ਦਾ ਮੈਟਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਲੋਰੋਫਿਲ ਵਜੋਂ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਕਲੋਰੋਫਿਲ ਸੂਰਜ ਦੀ ਰੋਸ਼ਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਐਬਜ਼ੌਰਬ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। The presence of chlorophyll and sunlight will create a need for carbon dioxide coming from the Earth's atmosphere. But nature has a way of maintaining ecological balance. Plants adapt various strategies to maintain this balance. Some of the processes which help in maintaining this balance are respiration, photosynthesis, and transpiration. Today we will discuss about one of these processes, that is transpiration. Before discussing various aspects about transpiration, let me first share the learning objectives for today's lesson.
On completion of this topic, learners will be able to define transpiration, discuss how transpiration is valuable to plants, explain 3 types of transpiration, discuss the mechanism of transpiration, discuss factors affecting the process of transpiration, enlist the significance of transpiration.
So students, What is transpiration? Transpiration can be defined as the loss of water in the form of vapors from the living tissue of aerial parts of plants. Since leaves are required to collect as much light from the sun as possible, they warm up and water inside the leaves evaporates, just like a glass of water left on a sunny windowsill will evaporate away over time. Through stomata, water vapors are released. Opening of stomata also allow the exchange of gases. However, the plant should not want to lose too much water, so the amount of water vapor loss is controlled by opening and closing of stomata. Transpiration from the aerial parts of the plants occurs from the 3 different regions, and depending on these regions, transpiration is of 3 types. So let us now discuss these types.
Types of transpiration. Transpiration is of 3 types. These are stomatal transpiration, cuticular transpiration, lenticular transpiration. Let us discuss these one by one. Stomatal transpiration. This type of transpiration occurs from the leaves through the stomata. Stomata are the minute openings that occur in large numbers, mainly on the lower surface of leaves. Transpiration occurs as long as the stomata are open, but it stops when they are closed. Stomatal transpiration accounts for 80 to 90% of water loss from the plants. Cuticular transpiration. This type of transpiration occurs directly from the surface of the leaves and stems. Cuticle is a waxy layer secreted by the epidermis present on the upper and lower surfaces of leaves. The thickness of the cuticle varies from plant to plant. The greater the thickness of the cuticle, the lesser is the transpiration. Here you can see how water transpires from the cuticle. Cuticular transpiration occurs constantly throughout the day and night. Lenticular transpiration. This type of transpiration occurs from the lenticels, which are minute openings on the surface of old stems. Lenticels also allow diffusion of gases for respiration as well as for photosynthesis. Lenticels never close because they have no closure mechanism. They remain open all the time. Inner structure of stem has been shown here. You can see here the inner bark, the outer bark, and lenticels. Water that moves through these lenticels crosses the outer layer epidermis and moves into the atmosphere as shown here.
Students, stomata ਦੀ presence ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਇਹ transpiration naturally ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. However, the plant should not lose too much water this way. So plants can control the amount of water vapor loss by opening and closing its stomata. We can say that stomata play a vital role in transpiration and respiration. Let us now check out how stomatal transpiration occurs.
Mechanism of stomatal transpiration. As you know, stomata are small pores found in the leaves of plant and they help in gaseous exchange during photosynthesis and respiration. Besides the loss of water vapor in transpiration, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the leaf also occurs through stomata. The two cells on either side of a stoma are called guard cells. These guard cells help in opening and closing of stomata. Normally, stomata open during the day and close during the night. The immediate cause of the opening and closing of stomata is a change in the turgidity of the guard cells. The inner wall of each guard cell that flanks the stoma is thick and elastic, whereas the outer wall of each guard cell is thin, as you can see here in the visual. When turgidity within the two guard cells increases, the thin outer walls bulge out and force the inner walls into a crescent shape. This leads to the opening of stoma and water transpires out. The opening of the stoma is also aided due to the orientation of the microfibrils in the cell walls of the guard cells. Cellulose microfibrils are oriented radially rather than longitudinally, making it easier for the stoma to open. When the guard cells lose turgidity due to water loss, the elastic inner walls of guard cells regain their original shape and the stoma close and reduce the amount of water that can escape during adverse conditions.
So we can compile this whole process as: when the guard cells become turgid, the region with thin walls bulges and gets inflated. The thick walls move apart and stomata open up. When the guard cells lose water, the inflated part sags, the thick walls collapse, and stomata close. ਸਮੇਂ-ਸਮੇਂ ਤੇ ਸਟੋਮੇਟਲ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਸਪੀਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਈ ਥਿਊਰੀਜ਼ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਐਕਟਿਵ ਪੋਟਾਸ਼ੀਅਮ ਆਇਨ ਥਿਊਰੀ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈਵਿਟ ਨੇ 1974 ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। Active potassium ion theory. It was observed that opening of stomata occurs due to the influx of potassium ions into the guard cells. The source of potassium ions is the neighboring subsidiary and epidermal cells. This theory proves that the accumulation in potassium ion concentration in the guard cells brings about the opening of stomata, and loss of potassium ion concentration leads to closing of stomata. Step-by-step mechanism of opening and closing of stomata is shown here. During daylight, there is accumulation of potassium ions by guard cells, which increases solute concentration and decreases water potential, due to which there is endosmosis of water, which increases turgidity and stomata open. And this is how stomata close. During night or dark, there is loss of potassium ions by guard cells, which decreases solute concentration and increases water potential, due to which there is exosmosis of water, which decreases turgidity and stomata close. The increase in potassium ion concentration increases the osmotic concentration of guard cells, thus leading to stomatal opening. ATP helps in entry of potassium ions into the guard cells. The stomatal closure is considered to be brought about by a passive or highly catalyzed excretion of potassium ions and chloride ions from the guard cells to the epidermal tissue in general and the subsidiary cells in particular. It is believed that subsidiary cells have an active reabsorption mechanism of potassium ions. Students, transpiration ਨਾਲ plant ਵਿੱਚ excess water loss ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਲਈ transpiration ਨੂੰ affect ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ factors ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਨਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ transpiration ਦੇ process ਨੂੰ control ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। How much water a plant transpires depends upon weather condition and location in which a plant is existing. So let us now discuss different factors which affect transpiration in plants.
Factors affecting the rate of transpiration. The first factor is light intensity. During the day, the light intensity is high. Light causes stomata to open. This is the reason that transpiration rate is more in daytime, or we can say the water loss is more in day hours as compared to night hours. During night, as sunlight is not present, stomata remain closed and hence rate of transpiration is low. Humidity. When humidity is low, the rate of transpiration will be high, as shown here. High humidity in the air reduces the rate of outward diffusion of the internal water vapor across stomata, thereby reducing the rate of transpiration. It may be noted that under humid conditions, transpiration will be checked even though the stomata remain open during daytime. Wind velocity. If wind velocity is high, the rate of transpiration will be high, as the wind removes water vapor and thus increases the rate of transpiration. If the wind velocity is low, it reduces transpiration by lowering the temperature of leaf. The next factor is temperature. Transpiration increases if the temperature of the surroundings increases. Thus, increase in temperature is directly proportional to the rate of transpiration. We can also say that a decreased temperature of the surrounding air will help in reducing transpiration rate.
Besides these factors, another factor, which is water content of the leaves, also plays a vital role in transpiration. If due to insufficient absorption of water by the roots, the water content of the leaves decreases, then the leaves wilt and transpiration is reduced because water stress brings about stomatal closure. Soil water or soil moisture availability is another factor which affects the rate of transpiration. If water loss occurs and this loss of water is not replaced by water in the soil, the plant will no longer be able to transpire quickly. When absorption of water by roots of plant cannot keep pace with the transpiration, then the stomata automatically close. When absorption of water fails to keep up with the rate of transpiration, the stomata close as turgidity of guard cells is lost. When this happens, the rate of transpiration is immediately reduced. The plant will begin to wilt if the turgor loss affects the remaining leaf and stem. Plants ਵਿੱਚ transpiration ਦਾ ਬੜਾ ਮਹੱਤਵ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਹੁਣ transpiration ਦੇ important advantages ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੀਏ।
Importance of transpiration. Cooling effect. Transpiration reduces temperature of the leaf surface, thus cooling the plants on hot sunny days. Absorption of water. Transpiration influences the rate of absorption of water from the soil. Water movement. By transpiration, water moves upwards, and as it passes into the cell vacuoles, it also makes the cells turgid. This gives form and shape to cells and plant as a whole. Mineral salt transport. The water stream moving upwards carries dissolved minerals with it. Transpiration also helps in distributing these minerals throughout the plant. Protection from heat injury. Some plants like cacti retain water by reducing transpiration. This saves the plants from high temperatures and strong sunlight. Removal of excess water. Large amount of water is continuously absorbed by the roots. If there would have been no transpiration, then plant cells would have burst and died due to retention of excess water. This never happens as excess water is removed out of the plant body through transpiration.
Plants lose a lot of water as intense heat of the sun brings about transpiration. But plants need water to be absorbed fast, or they will dry up or wilt due to lack of water. Excess of transpiration is said to be hazardous for the plant itself, or we may say it is a necessary evil. Without this process, plants will not be able to complete its food production or photosynthesis. So, since this is how transpiration occurs in plants, and with this, we conclude our lesson today. Let us summarize the entire topic. Transpiration can be defined as the loss of water in the form of vapors from the living tissue of aerial parts of plants. Transpiration is of three types. These are stomatal transpiration, cuticular transpiration, and lenticular transpiration. Stomatal transpiration ਪੱਤਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੌਜੂਦ stomata ਰਾਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. Stomata are the minute openings present in large numbers, mainly on the lower surface of a leaf. Lenticular transpiration occurs from the lenticels, which are the minute openings on the surface of old stems. Cuticular transpiration occurs directly from the surface of the leaves and stems. Cuticle is a waxy layer secreted by the epidermis. Active potassium ion theory, proposed by Leavitt in 1974. This theory states that accumulation in potassium ion concentration brings the opening of stomata, and loss of potassium ion concentration leads to closing of stomata. There are different factors affecting the rate of transpiration, such as light intensity, humidity, wind velocity, temperature, water content of the leaves. soil water and soil moisture availability. So students, है ना ट्रांसपीरेशन दिलचस्प? ਹੁਣ ਸਮਾਂ ਹੈ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਆਨਸਰਸ ਦਾ। ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਸਮਝ ਆਇਆ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋਣਾ। Be attentive. Here are some questions. The first question is, what is transpiration? The answer is, transpiration can be defined as the loss of water in the form of vapors from the living tissue of aerial parts of the plants. My next question is, define evapotranspiration. The answer is, evapotranspiration is a term used to describe the sum of evaporation and transpiration from the Earth's land surface to atmosphere. Let us understand it as evapotranspiration is equal to evaporation plus transpiration. The next question is, list 3 types of transpiration. Answer. Depending upon the site of transpiration, it is of 3 types. Stomatal transpiration occurring from the stomata. Cuticular transpiration occurring from the cuticle. Lenticular transpiration occurring through the lenticels. My next question is, what is stomatal transpiration? Answer. This type of transpiration occurs from the surface of the leaves through the stomata. Here transpiration occurs as long as the stomata are open, but it stops when they are closed. It amounts for 80 to 90% of water loss from the plants. The next question is, what is lenticular transpiration? The answer is, this type of transpiration occurs from the lenticels, which are the minute openings on the surface of old stems. These lenticels also allow diffusion of gases for respiration as well as for photosynthesis. Lenticels remain open all the time. The next question is, what are guard cells? The answer is, the 2 cells present on either side of stoma, that is, the opening of the stomata, are called guard cells. Due to movement of these cells, stomata open and close. The next question is, who gave the active potassium ion theory? The answer is, active potassium ion theory was proposed by Leavitt in 1974. The next question is, what is the importance of transpiration? The answer is, transpiration has great significance for plants. Some of the important advantages are cooling effect, absorption of water, water movement, mineral salt transport, protection from heat injury. The next question is, how does transpiration help in removing excess water in plants? The answer is, large amount of water is continuously absorbed by the roots. If there would have been no transpiration, then plant cells would burst and die due to retention of excess water. This never happens as excess water is removed from the plant body through transpiration. Hope I have made a successful attempt to clear your concepts regarding transpiration, which will help you in fetching good marks in the exam. Thanks for your cooperation and attention. Looking forward to the next class. See you then.